All righty. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of 1+1, your place for inconvenient truth-telling and myth-busting. And on the program, we return to the country of Haiti. And since it's Black History Month, hopefully we'll get the time to talk to talk and celebrate some of the Black Haitian heroes and sheroes. And I'm so honored with the guests we have tonight. We are joined by Dr. Jemima Pierre, a Haitian American academic, journalist, and activist. Dr. Pierre is president of the Association of Black Anthropologists, and she is professor of the Social Justice Institute at the University of British Columbia, their Vancouver campus, and she is a research associate at the Center of the Study of Race, Gender, and Class at the University of Johannesburg in South Africa. And she was a long-time associate professor of the Department of African American Studies and the Department of Anthropology at UCLA. She is a frequent contributor to Black Agenda Reports. She is a member of Black Alliance for Peace. She is my guest for the hour, or how long she'll ever permit me to talk to her. And let's get into it. So first off, Dr. Pierre, welcome to the program, and it is a real honor to finally get the chance to talk to you voice to voice.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. And it's Jemima, by the way. So
Jemima. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that.
But no worries.
The British need to Jemima, but
yeah, it's Jemima. That is Jemima. That's our colonial heritage.
Yeah. So, Dr. Pierre, so the first question I wanted to ask you is, let's talk about the latest that's going on in your home country of Haiti. And if anyone turns on Western corporate state media, this is how Haiti is depicted or how Haiti is presented. Haiti is gripped by an extreme turf war going on between multiple gangs that has crippled day-to-day affairs in Haiti, and the UN is being lobbied heavily by the US, Canada, and France. They're sort of demanding a UN peacekeeping force to vanquish all of these Haitian gangs, all of these amoral hoodlums. Kenya was supposed to lead the mission, but their own high court said they couldn't. So talk to us about this and why Haitian leftists, such as yourself, are saying no to this UN proposal.
Okay, it's very hard to talk about Haiti based on current representations of Haiti in the Western media. I want to first talk about the Western media because if you go back 200 years, 150 years, the Western media representation of Haiti is the same as it is today. And what it does, it's a representation of Haitians as, savages, people who can't, who are bandits, the language of bandits, the language of gangs, people who, who are brutal in their savagery towards one another, and therefore people who cannot rule themselves and need to be ruled. So the language that frames Western discussion, the white media, as I call them, around Haiti is always that. The other thing is the only time Haiti appears in the media is when there is this kind of, when there's a need for the West to do something. So the campaign around Haiti the past year and a half, 2 years, has been every time there's a UN meeting about Haiti, every time there's about to be a UN meeting about Haiti to push for intervention, the media gets whipped up around violence in Haiti. Violence increases in the media coverage of Haiti. And if you look at, there's a correlation between when the UN meets about Haiti and when the news media reports start. And so we have to think about that. The other thing I want to say is, to contextualize what's going on, is Haiti has been under occupation since 2004. And I say this is not,
yeah.
Huh?
A UN occupation, right?
A UN-US core group, France, Canada occupation. So let's be clear. So Haiti has been under occupation since 2004. And to understand anything that's happened in Haiti in the past 20 years, you have to begin, you can begin with the Haitian Revolution, but for this time, you have to begin with 2004. Next week, February 9th, on February 29th, will make it 20 years since the US Marines landed at the house of Jean-Bertrand Aristide, the popularly and democratically elected president of Haiti, put him on a plane. The US ambassador to Haiti, US Marines show up in his house, put him on a plane, drove him to the airport, put him on a plane, and flew him out of the country against his will. And they told him it's either he stays or he dies, right? And so they put him on a plane. They first flew him to the Caribbean, and Condoleezza Rice, who was Secretary of State at the time for George W. Bush, was like, we cannot have him in the hemisphere. So they kept him on the plane and flew him all the way to the Central African Republic. So he was on a plane with Marines in the back, with just him and his wife. His children were left behind. In fact, it was later on that, so then he was deposited in the Central African Republic. And I clearly remember this because I used to wake up to the radio Democracy Now! Before it became something very different. Yeah. But yeah, so I used to wake up and I remember a live, and you can still find it online, a live call where you have, I forgot his name. He used to be the head of Trans-Africa, Rand Robinson. Calling and saying, Aristide say he's been kidnapped. So there's on the phone, and then Maxine Waters is on the phone. Maxine Waters on the phone, but Aristide is calling. He's been kidnapped. The U.S. Marines put him on a plane. They sent it to the Central African Republic. He's only able to call because somebody gave him a cell phone. So he's sitting on the tarmac. So this is like the live show for Democracy Now! That morning. I remember this, right? So all this time, in the meantime, the media is like, Aristide resigned and so on and so forth. By the time the Marines came to get Aristide, there were already hundreds of troops of Canadian, French, and American soldiers on the ground in Haiti. And they took over Haiti. And then, but we realized is that the US and France and Canada, the year before, I had a meeting called the Ottawa Initiative on Haiti in 2003. This is winter 2003, where and this was a secret meeting that was later reported in Canadian, French Canadian newspaper, that they were basically finding a way to get rid of Aristide and put Haiti under tutelage. This is the language that they use. So a year fast forward, what you have is this 2000, you have this coup d'etat. And what happens is, two members of the UN Security Council, France and the US, Canada was on the Security Council, but not the permanent member at the time, right? Because of rotating memberships. They were behind the coup d'etat. And then they were able to use their positions in the coup d'etat to get the UN to put together an occupying mission of Haiti. So it's the two UN Security Council members who are behind this coup d'etat, then turn around and use the UN to consecrate this coup by agreeing to a Chapter 7 deployment of a so-called peacekeeping mission. And Chapter 7 is important because a Chapter 7 deployment means that the UN can use whatever force, by land, by sea, by air, against the population.
Okay, yeah.
This is an armed military invasion that can kill at will, which is what they did. The UN was a disaster. The minister occupation of Haiti was a disaster. So when you had a US mission that was there temporarily from February until June, until the UN took over the mission. And this is where they set up the core group. Now, the core group is a group of unelected, right, group of foreigners that include Brazil, that include the EU, Germany, US representatives, UN and the OAS representatives. They're the ones that, they're the ones that actually ran the minister deployment. The minister is the acronym for the UN mission to Haiti. But the other part of this is Brazil under Lula, the Lula of today, that yesterday was being castigated for calling what's happening in Palestine Holocaust. But it was Lula's military that led the invasion and occupation of Haiti in 2004, and they would stay to 2017. So Lula thought to use Haiti as a way to bring up Brazil's position in the world, because he was promised a seat on the Security Council. You know, so Haiti becomes the playground for these people to use, right? So this occupation was, so this is where you have the initiating aspect of this occupation, where you have the core group, which is still around, by the way, run Haiti. And from there, from 2004, what you have is the complete dismantle of the Haitian state. You know, and then the other key moment is 2010, where you have the coup d'etat of the earthquake that happens in January 2010, that devastated the Haitian, the country, and killed some people say 200, some people say 300,000 people. And so you have that happens. But what happens after that, that earthquake was a bonanza for the Haitian elite, the oligarchy, who are non-Black, the Haitian oligarchy. The richest man is Bijou, who's I think it's in these. I don't know if he's an Israeli citizen. Is he? Yeah,
I think so. And I think one of them has is of
Israeli citizenship,
like Lebanese or Syrian even.
Right. We have Lebanese, we have Syrian. Yeah. So these are the French Haitian elite, right? The oligarchy, right? So for me, the earthquake was a come up because all this money was coming in. This is where you have Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, right? That's a whole other conversation. Coming in, the elite, which a lot of them were land rich and cash poor, made a come up, right? During the after the earthquake, because all this foreign money was coming in, and these foreign companies and NGOs, which also we have to blame, right? The National Endowment for Democracy, but the USAID and the use of NGOs in maintaining their occupation of Haiti. You have that. But what happens in 2010 is the US forcing the election of Michel Martelly, the right-wing Duvalists musician, which they claim was an election, which only, under 20% of the people voted in that election. And Martelly, the US brought in as their candidate. He did not make the first round. Hillary Clinton flew from, this is happening, the so-called Arab Spring. I like to call African Spring because it was happening on the African continent, but, right? So she leaves Libya, she leaves the Middle East, comes all the way to Haiti, and basically threatened the sitting president that the same fate that happened to Aristide would await him if he did not agree to this. So they switched out. The first round of the elections, Martelly did not make. They switched out the candidates. This is the OAS, the Organization of American States, the UN, the US. And they put in this Michel Martelly, who then supposedly won the elections. And then with him, you have the devastation, the complete dismantling of the state, because he comes in, it's like Haiti's open for business, the proliferation of NGOs, business people. There was a time when you were flying to Haiti in the mid-2000s. I used to fly to Haiti. It was like you on the plane in Miami. There were 4 flights a day to Miami. On the plane to Miami, it was filled with white businessmen and missionaries. That would be it. The flight would be full of white people, businessmen and missionaries going to Haiti, right? Because Haiti was opened up. But the other thing is,
all of them continuing like the scramble of Haiti.
Right. And so Martelly then opened up, so the neoliberalization of the economy was consolidated under Martelly. He opened up this space, but also he made it difficult. So then, elections were difficult to have. And then they put in Moïse in 2016 under terrible circumstances, who was handpicked by the oligarchy, right? So the PHTK party that Martelly created is still in power today. And we're at a moment where under this occupation, the Haitian state has been completely dismantled. There's not one elected official because none of these people ran elections. They didn't do regional elections, local elections, or anything. So we're left with this prime minister who was told, the core group insisted that Jovenel Moïse replaced with the other prime minister 3 days before he was assassinated. And then as soon as Moïse was assassinated, it's the core group that announced by a tweet who would be Haiti's prime minister, right? So we have
the current minister is Ariel Henry.
It's the foreigners, it's the core group and the UN mission in Haiti that decided who would be the prime minister. Now, mind you, all this time, there have been protests, right? It's like Haitians, that's the thing. One of the things I want to start by really giving all solidarity to the Haitian people on the ground suffering the brunt of this, but also not taking it lying down, because it is their protest that actually has the West scrambling, because they've been trying to have this mission for 2 years. Mind you, it hasn't happened because they're protesting. But the Haitians were protesting from the very beginning. From the coup d'etat in 2004, they're protesting the removal of their president. Thousands of them were slaughtered, not just by the local folks, but by the UN soldiers. There's a thing where the UN soldiers goes into one of these popular neighborhoods, and in one afternoon, shoots 26,000 bullets. This is documented into a tiny little cramped, little popular neighborhood. So you have the UN, which brought cholera to Haiti, which killed 30,000 people, sickened 1 million, right? So you can see, like, for example, the spectacular violence of Gaza, right? Like, the Holocaust that's happening right now by the Zionists. But you think about the fact that this UN occupation brought cholera by dumping feces into the local waters that killed 30,000 people, sickened 1 million, and the world doesn't even bat an eye. Right? Over that, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
The spectacular violence versus this daily, right? The violence that's happening. So you have the UN occupation, you have this, you have the complete destruction of the state because you have no elections and so on and so forth. And then you have an occupation group, the core group, which is still active, telling Haitians who their prime minister would be. And is this prime minister that they want to keep in power because he does whatever they need him to do. So the only reason Ariel Henry is in power is because he has complete US support. And they're the ones that, protect him. They give him his, military protection, whatever. But Ariel Henry is also implicated in the murder of the president. He's the one that
Moise.
Moise.
Yeah.
He's also implicated in arming the young groups. We don't call them gangs, we call them paramilitaries. A lot of them are former police. A lot of them have been federated by the UN. A lot of the military grade arms that they're carrying around, Haiti does not manufacture guns. So you have to tell me where the guns are coming in. And so this thing about gang violence and so on and so forth is actually the same discourse the US uses when Haitians are protesting the fact that they remove their president, they install a prime minister. There's a lot of corruption that is, that is supported by the so-called international community. So that's really what's happening. So what's been happening and what they started doing even under Martelly is when people are protesting against the government sends their thugs, a lot of them former military, former police, to shoot into the crowd and to stop the protest. And so that's what you see. Like there's been protests against the government around February 7th, which is why the news is presenting this as like another campaign of violence, turf war, whatever, which is so racist, by the way, this idea of turf war. We're going to talk about turf war. Let's talk about Ukraine, right? Like seriously, right? That's a whole other conversation, right?
Exactly.
But the point is that every time the so-called gangs, the paramilitaries are there to harass and kill the poor masses that are protesting. Because you notice they're not killing in the elite neighborhoods. Rich people are not getting killed. The oligarchs are not getting killed. They're not blowing up gas stations and fancy nightclubs. In fact, there's a nightclub, nightclubs go on at this, in the elite areas. People are living their lives. There's like parties and people at the hotels and so on and so forth. So tell me, what it is what Haitians know is that these so-called gangs are there to terrorize the masses, but to also create the narrative that allows the West to say that they need an armed intervention. The other thing I want to say, and I know I'm talking a lot. The other thing I want to say is, when it comes to Haiti, you notice the only solution that the white racist West has is what? Violence.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they have. They're not saying, they're like, and everybody who believes it, because if you listen to mainstream news, you think these Haitians are like, oh my God, somebody needs to go in and take care of them, right? But the only solution is not like, well, let's see, Russia and China during the last UN, the Security Council meetings, they're like, well, we need an arms embargo. How are these arms getting into Haiti? They're getting to Haiti through the ports. Who owns the ports? The oligarchy. You cannot ship a phone to Haiti without, security systems are going and, you have to pay your customs, whatever, and they search your customs. How are you getting thousands of guns, military grade on guns to Haiti through customs? Because the ports are privately owned. or every once in a while through the border Dominican Republic, because the Dominican Republic is just as criminal in funding a lot of this violence in Haiti as well, because they're racist. And what they want to do, they want an armed military invasion of Haiti so that they can actually take over in terms of like taking over, you know, the market that they have, because Haiti is their biggest market for goods and so on and so forth. They want to keep the Haitians from producing their own foods. So to understand what's going on in Haiti is to understand in 2004 that our elected, the last time we had an elected official was taken out of power physically by the US, France, and Canada. The UN played a big part because the UN then occupied Haiti to consolidate this coup d'etat. And everything that's happened to Haiti, the position that Haiti's in is because of this occupation. And the people responsible, the biggest gangsters for Haiti, are the UN, the US, Canada, and France.
Fantastic. And so let me just clarify one thing. So if there is a half truth to what's happening in Haiti, it's not so much that there are like rival like drug gangs fighting one another. It's more like there's like an inner squabble going on between the oligarchy, but it's also used as a sort of a false flag to basically just like suppress popular revolts against the US, France, Canadian,
Canada,
and
the UN
backed
leadership right.
of Haiti, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it's complicated because the truth is there are armed young men going around, but it's only certain neighborhoods, right, that are getting attacked, right? And so it's not like what they used to present in LA, right? Drug gangs over turf. Yeah. It's not that.
And not at all like Colombia when they had its sort of narco terrorism, or Mexico
right. what they wanted to call that, right? This is not drug war or anything. This is about, you know, these oligarchs. Back in the day, these oligarchs used to actually hire these young men. Mind you, unemployment is high in Haiti. If you're a young man, like you walk around, like you know what's happening, right? Like you have these young men walking around in flip-flops and shorts, you know, with these big guns. These are poor, impoverished guys who are given guns and some money to go terrorize. So that's what they've done. The oligarchs used to hire these young guys to go terrorize their business, you know, the people that they, you know, that they were against within their own community. And then you started having like corrupt politicians use some armed goons to go and like break down protests. And now Ariel Henry uses his own gangs, uses his, you know, some of these young guys as well to go break up protests. And so that's what happened the last week. You know, February 7th, 2 weeks ago, February 7th is a key time because that's when Ariel, you know, the term was off. February 7th is the inauguration, Haitian inauguration. That's when the presidential term is over. Ariel Henry, everybody's like, he needs to get out. What happens? He sends armed goons to like terrorize the people who protesting against him being in power. One of the biggest so-called gangs operate right near the U.S. embassy. So why isn't the U.S. doing anything about that, right? The only time you have the police going after, you know, folks is like if the protesters are protesting from the U.S. embassy, they send the Haitian police to disperse and spread tear gas. So that tells us, we all know, most people know that these people are funded because Haitians don't make money. Like even ammunition, they couldn't afford shooting people if people are not giving them ammunition. And that's ammunition. And the other thing is there are a lot of local community groups that are not armed. So if really this was about gangs and turf wars, these local groups would find arms to protect themselves. They don't have that because when the guns come in, they know which groups to give it to, right? So it's just basically operationalizing an impoverished population, using some of its members to go terrorize others because you've brought the country to the point where it's so impoverished, there's nothing left. You have people, and then you have the foreigners stealing land up north because of gold, because of oil, right? So you have that, you know, what's happening is people being removed from their lands in order to, you know, bring in what they've done to the rest of the Caribbean, where you have places at Jamaica where people have no access to the beach now because they're all owned by foreigners. Haiti is one of the few places where people still own their land. It's an agricultural country. And they're slowly but surely removing people from their land. And what they want to do, they want Haiti without the Haitians.
Unbelievable. So then what do you and your comrades think would be a better solution to the current crisis that's affecting Haiti, as well as just in general Haiti socioeconomics? Because I know you and Black Alliance for Peace and a lot of the Haitian solidarity groups, in Canada, are saying no to another UN mission. So what? Yeah. So what would be a better solution to what's currently happening in Haiti?
Well, the first thing that needs to happen is the current occupation needs to end. We're under occupation. Like I don't want people to like, you bring in the Kenyans. What the Kenyans are doing, they're just, first of all, it's 1,000 of them. So I hope they're ready for, whatever comes at them. But it's only, it's 1,000 Kenyans coming, right? That's to buttress an occupation that is ongoing. And that's the key thing I wanted to do. The first thing we've been saying, the core group needs to be dismantled. The UN mission in Haiti needs to get out. They need to leave. The foreigners need to leave Haiti.
In other words, sorry to interrupt, but in other words, like, we don't need another UN mission because there already is a UN mission, and that UN mission is the reason why
we already have one. Like, if you look at the UN meetings, who testifies on behalf of Haiti? There's the head of the BNU office, the UN office in Haiti, is from Ecuador. Can somebody tell me what's been going on in Ecuador the past 2 months? Why isn't she, Isabel, I forgot her name. Why isn't she asking for an intervention in Ecuador? They have a bigger problem. So you have shootout with gangs in the street with the police and the government. Jamaica, the US just put a thing out saying Jamaica's too dangerous for you Americans to travel because of gang violence. But Jamaica's providing police for this occupation of Haiti. And then Kenya, they could barely get electricity. I was just watching the other day as the Ruto was giving a speech and the lights went out twice.
Exactly.
And their police are violent. So when they use Kenya, when they use these people to us, what are they telling us? That they don't care about Haitians. They want these people to come in and massacre us. So what we want these foreigners to leave Haiti. We want the UN to leave Haiti. We want the UN office to be dismantled. We want the core group, including Brazil, who's still a member of the core group. We want them out of Haiti because we had solutions. There were a number of groups. For example, there were, the Montana group, which had like a 2-year transition process. They already had their, people who would run in and lead us to elections. But all the Haitian solutions have actually been not allowed to take place because they keep putting Ariel Henry. The US government doesn't want that. They don't want Haitian self-determination. This is a fight against Haitian sovereignty. And to me, the most disgusting part, the UN will go around talking about this is the year of the Afro-descendants. It's the same year, the decade of the Afro-descendants as they snuff out Haitian sovereignty. So what we want the current occupation to end and let us do our own thing. Because the truth is, there was a time when the Haitians started dealing with the armed groups themselves. There was called the Bois Calais movement, where they know who it is. They know who they are. And that's the only time you had the government stopping to stop the Haitians from doing their own, community justice. So that tells you something.
Was that under Aristide when he...
No, this is the past year and a half. It's called the Bois Calais movement, BWAKALE, when it was like community justice against people who were terrorizing the local neighborhoods. The Haitians took that on their own.
Unbelievable. And in fact, I've often mentioned this to you when we've talked on Twitter that I remember Italy was like racked by like horrific like mob violence in the 80s and the 90s. Like the mafia would even they would like assassinate judges, they would like assassinate like lawyers, and even like assassinate like journalists. Like they would do like horrific car bombings and whatnots across like throughout like the 1980s and even like the early 90s until until there was a huge crackdown on organized crime. And I think to myself, like, there was never like a United Nations like mission that said like, oh, these Italians, they just can't get their shit together. What we need is United Nations peacekeeping force in order to vanquish like the mafia. Like it's so like for me, like it's like it's astounding that like Haiti, even if there was this supposed issue of like of gang violence going on. Like, you mentioned, like Jamaica, and you mentioned like other countries where like those countries would never ever accept like a United Nations peace mission. And if there was like, American forces there, it's only because they're being coerced by the Americans to basically have like their militaries, you know, set up shop to combat the very drug lords, which ironically America actually, funds, which is
Right.
another
Yeah.
topic for another day.
No, but that's an important.
I just wanted your response on that.
No, that's an important point, because the truth is, most of the UN so-called peacekeeping missions are outside of the Western countries. They're in Africa and Haiti, except for the one in Yugoslavia. So that tells you everything about what you need to know about the UN. The truth is, the place that needs a UN occupation or UN peacekeeping mission right now is the place that's suffering a genocide from the Zionists. What you need is, control of the airspace over Gaza and Palestine, historic Palestine. And this is where you need to be sending a peacekeeping mission. We're watching a genocide unfold, and yet they're sitting at the G20 meetings talking about sending an armed military force to Haiti while vetoing a ceasefire call, right, against an ongoing live tweeted videotape genocide. So that's the first. The second thing is, the US had more mass shootings than days last year.
Wow.
And so tell me, now if we report on US mass shooting in the racist, bated breath language that we report, the violence, that's being perpetrated when a group of armed communities go into poor neighborhoods and shoot it up, right? If we report the US mass shooting, a terrible problem that they have, where there are more people killed in the US, because tell me about the mass shootings, right? If we report those the same way that they report Haiti, everybody would ask for armed military invasion of the US. So to me, the problem, the key thing is also the nature. I blame the Western media, because I think they're also, they're part of the problem. They're also responsible for genocide. They're responsible for our occupation, right? The way, and it's the racism, right? In terms of how you talk about Black people, it's the same way they talk about Africans. That's why I keep telling these Kenyans, Ruto, do you know what Europeans think of you? Like, do you know what these Zionists think of you? Like, you're an African. And the way that they report about Africa, the way anything, remember, I don't know, you might not be old enough to remember the 90s of like, warlords and all that stuff. Nobody's calling Netanyahu a warlord.
Yeah.
Right?
That's how you talk about Somalia.
Or Biden a warlord, because that's what he is, right? Nobody's calling that. Or Blinken or Hillary Clinton, they're all warlords. But look at the language used to talk about Black people, and then look at the language used. And so if we use the same language, I would love somebody to do that exercise. Use the same language we talk about Haiti and so-called gang violence in Haiti to talk about the epidemic of mass shootings in the U.S.
Problems, like it's the like the Camorra, or even like the U.S. with its various problems.
Mass shooting epidemic, because that's what it is.
And that's a perfect segue to this question, because of course we can't talk about the plight of Haitians and what's going on without talking about the history of Haiti, which you perfectly outlined, in the beginning of this conversation. And Haiti, which has constantly been ground zero for global white supremacy and imperialism. Now, you mentioned that I know actually recently you and Jean Sanville, I believe Yves Engler, and I'm blanking on her name, but another previous guest of mine who comes from Haiti and is based in Quebec. We're all tweeting about.
Is that Dr. Mamila Prosper?
No, Jenny Marie,
Okay,
Jenny Marie Laure, I believe.
okay.
I know why I don't know why I'm blanking on her name, but anywho, but all of you were talking about on Twitter about the anniversary that is coming up of the U.S., Canada, and France's overthrow of the democratically elected social democratic government of Jean-Bertrand Aristide, and yeah, so talk a bit your reflections on this epic crime against humanity, and from there, and from there we're going to have an interest, and for there I would like to talk to you about why there seems to be this thing of I'm in anti-imperialist on everything except Haiti. I'm
Look at
so
Lula.
so yeah. So talk to us about that.
Well, I do think what's, I wrote an article called Haiti as Empire's Laboratory recently, talking about what the shift in US imperial policy, right? 20 years ago, it was the US Marines that went in and took out Aristide. And before that, in 1993, it's the US Marines that went in. And I don't know if you noticed, the US is not sending its own military. It's using proxies, right? And so what's happening is, and I think, the Haiti was a laboratory for this, because what the US did with the coup d'etat in 2004 was shift it from a US coup d'etat to a multinational, multiracial, multilateral occupation. So it shifted not only the costs, right? Because then it became a UN funded thing,
Yeah,
but it also created, like, it became like a jobs program for all these militaries in the UN. So, at any given time, there were soldiers from Burkina Faso, from Senegal, from Kuwait, from, all over the global south, the Middle East, from Europe. They were all in Haiti as part of this occupation. And so,
yeah,
there's a great article. I can't remember the name of the person who it's a law review article called Multilateralism as Terror, right? And so that to me is key, because you're able to use multilateral relations to agree to occupy a sovereign country, which is against the United Nations Charter, right? Haiti you took out the president. No one has the right to there's no one in power to actually call for an occupation. So for example, Ariel Henry saying that, Kenya saying that Ariel Henry asked them to bring this force is illegal, because Henry is not an elected official. He has no power to actually make a call on behalf of Haiti and Haitians. So for me, the 2004 coup d'etat and occupation did set a particular kind of standard that would show with how you see how the US is working now, which is why now they're using Kenya, right, to be the face. And it's all Black countries. It's Kenya, other African countries. At one point, I heard it was like Rwanda sending soldiers, and it's Jamaica, it's Barbados, Bahamas, right? And so that to me is a key thing to think about how the US is going to work from now on. And Haiti is a laboratory for that. How you can use the UN machinery, which is why I think the UN needs to be dismantled and something else come up in its place. Use the UN machinery to do that. And so I think that's one of the key things, that's why it's of historical importance. And people think Haiti doesn't matter. I'm like, well, Haiti matters because
yeah.
look how large the US embassy is. The fourth largest US embassy in the world is in Haiti. If that tiny little island did not matter, there's no way that they would spend so much time and money and energy trying to control it. So that's the first. I forgot your second question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to also ask you, what do you think it's going to take to break the cycle of the I'm a socialist, I'm an anti-imperialist, I'm an anti-gringo, anti-Canuck, anti-pan-European on everything except Haiti? Because there is this bizarre because there is this bizarre thing which we've talked about a couple of times on the program, where I mean, I remember I was shocked when I had Jean Sanville talk about the history of Haiti, and he talked about how Simon Bolivar, the great liberator of Latin America,
would not do what he did without Haiti's help. I tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah, he threw Haiti under the bus, and then you have this thing where you have like a lot of these leftists, and we're talking about leftist Latin American heads of states who will go to the UN, or they'll even go to, or they'll even go to the United States and insult the US to their face and say that like you need to leave Cuba alone, you need to respect Cuba's sovereignty, solidarity to the Cuban people, and so forth. You mentioned Lula, but not just Lula, other heads of states during the pink tide. So we're talking about like Argentina, we're talking about like other Latin American heads of states that had left-leaning governments. So yeah, so they all have this like, I'm an anti-imperialist and I'm a socialist on everything except Haiti. And so so what do you think it's going to take to break that, to break that cycle?
Well, we need to end racism. I mean, I wrote this article called "The Leftism of the Americas Collapses at the Door of Haitian Sovereignty," right? And I had to retweet it today because like Lula just yesterday was talking about genocide, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, Lula is amazing, so great." And then today he's like, right now they're having a meeting on Haiti, about Haiti, with no Haitians present. It's in Canada just decided to donate all this money because the Republicans are holding up the 200 million that the US had promised Kenya, right? So there's a meeting where US, Brazil, at the G20 have a whole special section on Haiti. There's no Haitians, right? There are no Haitians, right? So there's that. And so I think there is something to be said. I think there's a deep racism. I don't even think people recognize how much they have when it comes to thinking about Haiti as a Black country. There's a deep racism that's linked to all kinds of things, down to like voodoo religion, right? Like, because the truth is, in the coup d'etat, when you look at the WikiLeaks papers, and thank goodness for WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, even the Pope was behind the 2004 coup d'etat. The Pope, the Vatican,
Paul II, and
the Vatican was behind it, and they're like, you need to get rid of this. He's not really a priest. These people are full of voodoo worshipers. This is like the Pope. This is like WikiLeaks papers. I can send you some of these quotes, right? And so, so to me, there's a thing that's linked. You cannot not think about the way that the Haitians had to get their freedom from white supremacy and slavery and colonialism. And I think they're still paying for that. But I still think even within the Caribbean, within Black countries, there's an anti-Haitianism. In fact, some of the most draconian laws, anti-immigration laws, are in places like Bahamas. Anti-Haitian immigration laws are in places like Bahamas, places like Jamaica, right? And stuff like that, right? So these
Dominican Republic, you've mentioned that.
Oh, well, yeah, that's a whole other. I mean, the Dominican Republic, how many massacres of Haitians will they have, right? I mean, then there's a 1937 massacre where they hacked to death, thousands of Haitians. And then you have in 2013 the Dominican law that basically took away citizenship going back 8 generations, to denationalize 250,000 Dominicans, Black Dominicans of Haitian descent. This is 2013. Nobody's talking about that either, right? And so there's a built-in anti-Haitian bias, anti-Black racism in the Caribbean, in Latin America, that cannot see themselves, they cannot see Haitians as true human beings. And I think it's a combination of how they represented the West represented the revolution as like these cannibals eating whites and killing them and raping white women, because, that's part of that. But the other part of it is, I think, even the Black countries are embarrassed by Haiti, right? They're embarrassed by how Haitians got their independence. Even CARICOM, the Caribbean community, right? Haiti's population is one of the largest in the Caribbean, right? It's 12 million people, right? CARICOM did not allow Haiti to join in till like the late 90s. It wasn't until early 2000s, right? CARICOM has celebrated 50 years because they did not want these weird people who spoke a weird language and had a weird religion. And they would say that, right? That, CARICOM, and they were afraid of the population because Haiti's population is becomes half the membership of CARICOM, right?
Wow, that is so every time I learn about Haiti, I keep getting like more and more shocked at just like how deep they, as you mentioned, the anti-Haitian racism is. But I just find that striking because because I think I even asked you this before. Like, what do you say to people who sort of defend Lula and they'll say things like Lula and Delma joined the bullying of Haiti because they thought that that was a way that like American imperialism won't attack them. Of course, years later, like America did like a soft coup on
Well,
them.
but the thing is, none of us are free until all of us are free. So that's what I say to that. And so
Yeah,
if you think your sovereignty matters more than Haitian people's sovereignty, then you deserve to go to hell. Because I think, it's like there's
exactly.
no way you'll survive, because the same soldiers that worked in Haiti during the Haitian occupation are the same ones that became part of the Bolsonaro government that actually helped put Lula in freaking prison. So he that's his payback. And no, the region cannot be free if they keep thinking that stepping on Haiti's neck is their claim to like dealing with US imperialism. That's not going to happen. If Haiti is not free, the region cannot be free, and it won't be free. And I have to call out.
But that's another stunning thing. Like that is another stunning thing, though, because okay, so you guys can defend Cuba, you can defend communist Cuba against the big
A
bad
blockade, right?
gringos. You can defend Palestine and you can defend Palestine, which can also cost you your sovereignty because Israel is also a partner in crime to the Anglo-American French empires, the pan-Euro empires. And yet, like, and you can also stick your neck out for Russia against the sanctions on them, against the Western proxy war against Russia in
Right.
Ukraine, and yet you feel like Haitians are expendable when this was the first country that like overthrew
Right.
global white supremacy.
Send all your military. They sent all your military to be part of the occupation of Haiti. Like Bolivia had soldiers in Haiti, Ecuador had soldiers, everybody had soldiers in Haiti during the UN, when the military was there, at 13,000 soldiers, occupation soldiers for what, how many years in Haiti? And I have to stop and just say there are two countries that actually haven't acted against Haiti, two or three, it depends on how. Well, one of them is Venezuela. And Hugo Chavez was Haiti's largest supporter. In fact, Hugo Chavez, provided, he's the one that created the Petro-Carib funds. I don't know if you've heard of that. The Petro-Carib funds, which was the funds that when oil prices were high and Venezuela was making a lot of money from oil before these, sanctions and stuff, right? What they said was they would provide Haiti oil not at a like 1% interest. Not only that, Haitians did not have to pay for the oil for 25 years so that they could use the money, sell this Haitian state using the money that selling the oil for, development. All those funds were stolen. The U.S. was completely against the Petro-Carib funds. A lot of Caribbean populations participated in the Petro-Carib funds until the U.S. pushed them against it. But the U.S. was completely against that. And the thieves that they put in power, the PHTK, stole the money. In fact, that's why you had so many protests. Million people on the streets in late 2018 asking what happened to these funds, because that's what you have. And so you have Hugo Chavez, who has always been a supporter. And there's a grainy video when Chavez visited Haiti on YouTube. It is incredible because it was just like, I don't think I've ever seen a leader be so loved and supported. The masses, he was running in the street with the masses, everybody's so happy because people understood what Hugo Chavez meant for Haiti. The other country is Cuba. And I have to say this because even during this latest UN thing, even though Cuba has always had doctors in Haiti, always support Haiti, with the professional schools, the medical schools, doctors performing there. And they're the only ones that put out a statement after the UN agreed on sending this mission in October that occupation and invasion is not the solution to Haiti's problem. They'll say that. I mean, they were more subtle than Hugo Chavez would have been, but they did say that. And then you have Nicaragua, right? Which hasn't been part of that as well. So those are the only three countries I see that have been, that have not jumped the bandwagon to support the imperialist onslaught on Haiti.
But then, sorry to ask this again, but then, what do you think it's going to take to really push back against that? I'm a socialist, anti-imperialist on everything except Haiti.
Haiti.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the truth is Haiti keeps defying them, right? So they could say whatever they want. I mean, the Haitians are the only ones pushing back. I mean, the reality is, like I said, 20 years ago, the US would have had their soldiers there. They would have had some, they had Brazil leading, they've been trying to get an armed military force in Haiti since 2021. It's 2024. They can't do it. They can't even get people to lead it. And then they get this broke neo-colonial dude in Kenya to say, yes, we'll do it for 200,000, but to be the face, because they're gonna, it's the US running this, right? But my thing is, the good thing is, you got to give this to the Haitian protesting against this intervention. And we should always give our solidarity to the people on the ground, to the strength and power of these people protesting ongoing onslaught of their country and devastation of their country, both politically, economically, as well as like militarily, right? And so, so it's the people. That's the only thing we can do. Just like, look, Haiti did this on their own. Nobody was helping them in 220 years ago when they, won this revolution and declared independence. And so I don't expect these Western anti-imperialism, except Haiti people, to help us in any way. We'll be fine.
Well, I guess a message I would only give to any anti-imperialists anywhere is look at the members of the core group and members of the United Nations mission, and then lobby your governments to stop being a partner in crime to imperialism in Haiti.
Well, I agree, and I think I have to say this. I mean, I do think that's the groups that do pay attention. Those are not those progressives, except for Haiti. I mean, there are some groups. I have to give credit to that. Of course, the Black Alliance for Peace does that. A lot of these groups. There's even like the Progressive International, which is now trying to do work around Haiti, which I actually find amazing, right? So I do think the word is getting out there where people are seeing but even Nick Wallace, at the EU Parliament, and Claire Daly have been absolutely yesterday, Nick Wallace gave the most amazing speech saying Haiti does not need intervention, right? And Claire Daly has been consistent, right? And so, you got to give it to these Irish, European parliamentarians. So there are groups of people who understand what's happening, who are not part of everything except Haiti. And I do think a lot of people in Latin America now are starting to see it. It is tricky when it comes to Lula, because people don't want to see Lula's bad side. They're saying, well, he's under the onslaught and so on and so forth. I'm like, but Lula knows what he's doing, because he goes off against Netanyahu the day before, and then the next day he's with Anthony Blinken. And I'm just like, how do you not see how problematic it is? And it's also his neoliberal stuff, right, that he gave into in the first term that actually led to what's happening in Brazil. And so we actually cannot, my thing is, we cannot be beholden to individuals. We have to talk about masses. And that's the thing for me. It's like the Brazilian masses, the Bolivarian, the masses in Bolivia, the masses that are doing the work. And we cannot be beholden to one leader, because the leaders will always disappoint you. And those people who support Lula for whatever, that's a problem to me, right? Because he's one man, and I'm like, let's support. What about the masses in Bolivia? What about the masses in Peru, the masses in Brazil that are doing the work outside of this guy who goes back and forth, right? He's a celebrated one.
It is up to those people to hold him to account, and not not just him, but other leftist heads of states who have constantly been throwing.
And there have been a number of, and I can't remember their names. There have been a number of mass groups in Latin America, that have actually put out statements. You don't like the CELAC Social, which is a group of local organizations that are outside of CELAC, which is the Central American, whatever, I forgot the full title, that actually, write in solidarity for Haiti. Even in the Dominican Republic, there are groups of socialists and communists who are writing in solidarity for Haiti. So I don't want to discount the popular movements in the region that have been supportive of Haiti, but I don't want us to look to these leaders to make a difference. Look at Mia Motley, who everybody thinks is like the progressive thing. And she's the imperialist queen of Barbados.
Yeah.
The prime minister of Barbados. She's the neoliberal imperialist queen, but she gives nice speeches, and the trick is, you have to see what she does, because apparently with her, apparently she's been promised like the UN security the UN general he's the UN top job. I think that's what she's been promised, right? And so
the
she's doing
Guterres has like Secretary
Guterres, exactly. That's what she's been promised. And so she's like the neoliberal baby, but everybody thinks she's a progressive based on her speeches. So it's like Obama. You gotta watch what people do, not what they say.
Exactly. And that's a perfect segue, since it is Black History Month and since we've been talking about Haiti. Tell our audience which Haitian historical figure, past or present, man or woman, from the past or present, that you think all leftists should, that all leftists should study.
There's Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who, basically led us to independence. I think, there's some good ones. There's Jacques Roumain, who wrote Masters of the Dew, who was a leftist, and who else? It's interesting to read, I forgot his name, Jean-Priest Mars, who was part of the movement of that actually celebrated Blackness, right? The Black celebrate Vodou, and he came around the same time towards the end of the U.S. occupation, where the elite had sold their souls, and there was like they were ashamed of being Black. So the Noirism movement, almost like a Black Power movement, of intellectual a movement. So I think that's an important thing. Jacques Roumain was a communist who worked in Cuba, and so Masters of the Dew is a novel about that. And of course, there's Edwidge Sandika, which is more, modern people would know that. And then there's, I'll have to send you the name of this brother that I met when I was in Senegal 2 years ago. And he just passed away. He was in his 90s, and he had moved, Gerard Chenet,
okay.
who moved under Senghor. He moved to Senegal, because he was, this left wing in Haiti, moved to Senegal in the 40s. Is it 40s or 50s? And he was given land by Senghor. And so I went and saw him, in his, beautiful art area, hotel, land stuff. And he'd been living there since then. Older Haitian person. So there are quite a number, of people to think about when you think about
fantastic. And
of course, everybody should read The Black Jacobins by C.L.R. James.
I need to read that. That's one of many books I need to read. But and my second to last question, that I wanted to ask you was, it is Black History Month. Your thoughts on the late great Glen Ford and the late great Bruce Dixon, and please take however much time you want on that question and celebrating their legacy.
Oh my God, I miss Glen so much. That is one brother. I don't think he is irreplaceable. Just every once in a while when we meet to put out the Black Agenda report, it's always like, man, can you imagine Glen's analysis about this moment? Can you imagine Glen giving you an analysis of what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on, in with Yemen, and because that was a brilliant brother. That was, he wasn't like an academic in the regular sense. He was like an actual organic intellectual whose mind was, mind blowing, but also had a way with words that most people don't have, right? And so I miss him a lot. Bruce, I worked with a little bit. I didn't know Bruce as much as well as Glen. And so, our RIP to both of them. But you know, these brothers gave so much to us, so many things. And every once in a while I go back and reread Glen's analysis. And it was so sharp. I don't think it's unmatched. I don't think, and so every day I wake up and, you know, every once in a while, I was just like, man, what I wouldn't do to have one conversation with Glen right now. And so
in fact,
I miss him quite a bit.
In fact, I remember watching you on the Left Lens with Danny Haifong and Margaret. Margaret, who's been a great friend to the show. She's been on 1+1 many times, and it's funny because some of your favorite moments of Glen Ford were actually some of my favorite moments of Glen Ford. So you were talking about how you were watching the real news when they were covering the
the elections when Donald Trump won.
When Pumpkinhead like won against Crooked Hillary. And it's funny because Glenn was my favorite person to listen to, and yet he was and yet if you watch it, he was pretty marginalized by most of the people.
They were mad at him. They were mad at him because he wasn't as upset that Hillary lost.
Yes, exactly. And like you had like one person who even like left
the room. I remember that. I remember that.
But I was completely on Glenn's side in that thing. And I think Glenn said something like, I know everybody thinks that like this is the end of the world, but at least the people in Syria can know that like at least at least the person who campaigned on a no-fly zone, at least they get like that one little bit of like moments of like. So I thought it was incredible that that you brought that up, and I thought to myself, oh wow, who is this person? Because that's exactly like because that's also one of my favorite Glen.
That's true, and I have to say one more thing about Glen. It's Glen that actually taught me how to write for
talk about
academic audience. Yeah, and because I first met Glen. It was after the earthquake in Haiti, and I met Glen through Alexander Gray, who's also an amazing writer. He used to write for The Nation all the time, and him and I, when Obama got the nomination, when Obama gave his horrible Father's Day speech, and I was just like, I was the one person I was just like, I was not an Obama person. Like I was just like, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong. What is it? And then he gave this speech. I was so upset. And then Alexander
was that the Father's Day speech? Was that like the one where he was like scolding like absentee black?
That's all he does is scold black people, right? Black Americans, right? So black people, black Africans too, because he told them to stop talking about colonialism. So, but it was like, he gave that Father's Day speech, and I was so upset. I was like, this is so racist, so terrible. But this black man's gonna be president. And then Kevin Alexander Gray had written a piece about, why is Obama talking about my daddy or something like that. And I reached out to him back in the day. And so we became friends, we had never met. And so, and rest in peace as well, because he passed away very recently in the fall last year. And so, so we became friends, and he went with me to Haiti as like a journalist after the earthquake in 2010. And so we came back and we went to the Left Forum to talk about Haiti. And that's when I was introduced to Glen. And so, but this is also around the same time, right after that Hillary Clinton was trying to push this president, Michel Martelly, onto Haitian. And I was like, man, this is terrible. Somebody should write about this, and that. He's like, well, why don't you write about it? And I'm like, man, Glen, I've never written anything, for this kind of thing. I'm an academic. I don't know how to write like this. And then he said, all you need is a hook and 800 words. And that's what he said. He said, a hook and 800 words. And so he's like, I'll be waiting for that, And so, so he got it, and then, gave feedback and took it. And then a couple of times I would write certain things, and he'd be like, email back and be like, what does this mean? This doesn't make any sense. Like, some of my endings. And so he really turned me into like, he helped me develop that kind of skill for writing, for a place like Bar and stuff like that, these short, critical, political opinion pieces. And so I'm forever grateful to him for that.
Well, long live his revolutionary spirit,
Yes.
As well as Bruce Dixon. And
Yes.
I promise this is my second last question. I promise this is my second last question. We were talking about this bizarre thing of the anti-imperialist socialist on everything except Haiti, which to me reminds me a lot. I know I've talked to you about this. It reminds me of living in Europe. There's like deep seated hatred of the Roma traveler people, the Roma Sinti people, and I even read a book called like the last acceptable form of racism, Romophobia, and Haiti, is a lot like that. And then you having lived in the U.S. for many years, I have to ask this, which is, what do you think it's going to take for the various people power movements, from the Black leftists, the Latinx, the eco-socialists and eco-justice groups, queer liberationist folks, feminists, all of those, and of course the anti-imperialists and the Palestine justice folks, to show more urgent solidarity to Native Americans and Indigenous Hawaiians and Alaskans and I know,
People in Papua New Guinea
as well, and West Papua, West Papua. What do you think it's going to take, for all those groups to show more urgent solidarity to Indigenous Americans, or at least it be at the level that it's at in the country you're currently based in, Canada, where I think the Canadian left does very good on Indigenous solidarity, but is terrible on anti-imperialism. And the U.S.,
because they don't think Canada is an imperialist country. It's like
and the U.S.
imperialism.
And the U.S. I generally am impressed with a lot of the people power movements, but I find that a lot of the people power movements in the U.S., including those who are anti-imperialists, I think have failed on solidarity for Indigenous Americans. So I'm curious your response.
I don't know if I have a response to that. I do think one of the things, I think what we need to do is actually equalize the power of the left. So I think we would need an end of Western imperialism, because those of us in the heart of empire still have more power than the other groups outside, right? And so even though we're leftists and we're anti-imperialists, we have access to certain kinds of resources and materials that the people on the ground in the global south don't. And I think until we dismantle that framework of imperialism, we can't really have solidarity. Solidarity, we can be on the side of people who have solidarity with Palestine, but I do think empire needs to fall in order for us to have actually true global solidarity. You can't have it if we're sitting in the heart of empire, getting paid in dollars, while our brothers and sisters in the global south are struggling against the power of the dollars that we pay for taxes are going against. So I think people in the West actually need to work to dismantle Western imperialism, and then I think that the opening will be there for all of us to reach across the world to one another and work for a better world. But until we dismantle white supremacy and Western imperialism, we can't really move that far ahead. So our move should be actually going to dismantling Western white supremacy and imperialism.
And that's why the Haitian question, solidarity to the Haitian people. That's why that is very important, as I'm not saying that it's more important than Palestine, but I'm saying it's as important as Palestine. And I think that the global anti-imperialist left needs to do much better on Haiti, and as well as we can't we can't say that like we're anti-white supremacy, but then have like a blind spot or completely overlook the plight of Native Americans, Indigenous Hawaiians, and Alaskans and whatnot, and as well as all of the territories, can you believe that the U.S. still has, and not just Puerto Rico, but like America, Samoa, the Marshall Islands, and whatnot.
Right, no, and Germany. I feel like Germany's occupied territory anyways with all these U.S. bases, but you're absolutely right. I think I think that needs to happen. You know, what's telling, you know, as brutal and the Holocaust that's happening right now is absolutely brutal. But the other thing that is done is open up our eyes to what settler colonialism really means. And so if you see what the Zionists are doing in terms of like exterminating the indigenous folks, right? Because that's the thing. You take the land, you don't want the people, you want the land, you want the geography, as the Palestinian person said the other day in front of the ICJ, they want the geography but not the demography, right? And so it's like extermination and land theft. And so it should all remind us how Canada exists now and how the US exists now. Because you know what the Zionists are doing, the US and Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South
Yep.
Africa, they did 200-fold, you know, 1,000-fold in terms of, if you think that would, you know, think in terms of the brutality that it did, you know, to remove the people from their land and then steal it. And so I hope that, you know, what's happening now reminds us, you know, what settler colonialism really is, and to actually really fight for land back. I'm like, you know, here they're big on land acknowledgements. I'm just like, give it back, you know, and see what happens.
Exactly, exactly. And well, before I let you go, we usually end, you know, perfect what you know what you just said, and I couldn't agree with you more. But we usually end the program with the questionnaire, which was done first by Marcel Proust and later the French broadcaster Bernard Pivot. Later, my hero, the late great James Lipton of Inside the Actors Studio. Dr. Pierre, it's your turn to do it before I let you go. So, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word?
Yeah, favorite words. And it
Well,
could be in any language. It could be in Creole or French or
oh, my favorite Creole word is Aibobo. You know, this is like a salutation. You know, I like hegemony. I like you know, thinking about Gramsci. Lately my, you know, that's a hard favorite word. I like saying Haitien, you know, which is how to say Haitian in Creole.
okay.
Um, um,
Well, that's good. That's good enough.
that's good.
That's four words even. So then, then,
Yeah,
then what is your least favorite words?
my least favorite word, um, the West. So
Fantastic.
I never capitalize that. So I was so upset. I so annoying. It's so annoying to me.
Yeah, it's all that arrogance that even comes when like people say like the
The
West,
West,
like
Western, right?
then what turns you on emotionally, spiritually, or psychologically?
Compassion.
Likewise, that's a good one. Then what turns you off then?
What turns me off?
Yeah,
Um, Arrogance.
arrogance. Okay. And then what's your favorite curse word? And it can be in any language.
Get mama.
Colum get mamo.
It's just like the FU in Creole. I don't know.
Okay.
It sounds like a curse word, doesn't it? Get mama.
I like that. I like that. I'll have to make sure I'm on my best behavior whenever I visit Haiti so I don't get that.
Right, don't say that.
And then what sound or noise do you love, followed by what sound or noise do you dislike?
I love listening to my 11-year-old laugh. I
Okay.
love his laughter when he's talking to his friends, and I can hear it, you know, in the background.
And then what sound or noise do you dislike then?
Um, Tree failing, a tree falling.
A tree falling.
Because they've been, you know, clearing out the lands here. It's just sad. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, we had we have a big storm going on right now in Belgium, and there was a and yeah, you would have not liked to have heard like the big tree that like fell, which luckily didn't hurt anyone. And then what profession, if you weren't doing the great academia you do, the great journalism as well as the activism you do, what profession would you love? Yeah, what profession would you love to do?
I actually almost went to medical school.
Oh, so you would have liked to have been
I'm
Dr.
a
Pierre
medical
in the
doctor. Yeah,
medical world,
yeah.
and still dream of like sometimes
I
like,
actually thought about doing that. I'm like, am I too old to go back to medical school? You know, because I feel like there's something more practical in these days, you know.
alrighty. Oh, but then what profession? And then yeah, what profession would you absolutely not want to do under any under any circumstances?
A politician.
Even if you were a leftist politician, like
In this moment, no. There's no leftist politician.
well,
Not
and of
under
course,
empire.
if you were something like Bertrand Aristide, they would overthrow you
Or
and
kill me. Yes.
so. And then final one is if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say as you arrive at the pearly gates, or whatever is your vision of the afterlife? And even if you're an atheist, please answer the question.
Welcome. The vodka is right there.
Well, we were joined on this edition of we were joined on this edition of 1+1, our All Things Haiti special, our All Things Latin America special, and our Make Me Want to Holler, which covers the Black diaspora with Haitian American academic, journalist, and activist Dr. Jemima Pierre. Right, I got it right, Jemima.
That's right. Yeah.
Jemima Pierre, who is currently professor of the Social Justice Institute at the University of BC, its Vancouver campus, and Social Justice Institute. Yeah, no, I already said that. Oh yes, president of the Association of Black Anthropologists, and she is a research associate at the Center for the Study of Race, Gender, and Class at the University of Johannesburg, and a frequent contributor to Black Agenda Reports and the Black Alliance for Peace. Dr. Pierre, thank you so much for coming on 1+1. I hope that this will be the first of many conversations. There's so much more about Haitian history and Haitian historical figures I want to discuss to you, as well as the propaganda that's been centuries used against the Haitian people. But for now, thank you so much for coming, and it was a real honor to finally talk to you voice to voice.
Thank you so much for having me, Yuri. It was my honor as well to be here in conversation.